legalization because you're pushed out delivery, and the same thing with Portland, and now I'm seeing it in Mattapan. So I am revamping my business to focus on how do I build wealth and how do I build equity and fairness in my community, in addition to someone else's vision, but I still want to have a sense of gratification for the work that I do.
Right.
And it's helping people.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm about, helping our people.
So, really quickly, you talked about tiny houses in terms of like the lot. Do you want to get into that?
Yes. Let's talk about it because I don't know that much about it. I don't know how it works, and let's talk.
Okay. So I am blessed, or I was blessed. I am blessed, but I was blessed the other day to get connected with Mrs. Vera Strux. She's the one who founded the Massachusetts Tiny House Legalization Task Force. And between her and Dan Fitzpatrick, who's the president of the Tiny House Industry Association, they put a bill together, and that bill is 6897. And what it's doing, it's creating a place for movable tiny houses to remain permanent and not have to leave by like the winter come November, December, and have to relocate because they're not classified properly. They're misunderstood. I've had residents talk to me during these meetings of my ADU open house and ask about building a tiny house on their property. And when I spoke to Mrs. Vera a couple of days ago, she informed me that in 2018, it was already passed in our amendment. Governor Baker passed and signed off on the tiny house amendment that allows Massachusetts to build tiny houses. I believe it's 900 square feet. However, it wasn't put into the building code yet because it was COVID. So it was the building code, the International Code Council was supposed to update the International Residential Code in 2021. It hasn't been updated, but that amendment is in effect. So now what I want to do with Boston Construction Management is work with my clients who's interested in building a tiny home on their property or an accessible home so that, we have baby boomers, we have the children leave the nest, whatever it may be, but you've got this big house, but you don't need it anymore. Or you've got a lot of land. And now with this housing crisis that the nation is actually suffering from, we as homeowners can participate with this alternative forms of housing to create more units for others to reside. So there's a way that we as homeowners can support the tiny house initiative in this bill. I know that the Senator Oliveira is the one sponsoring this, and the Housing Committee has signed off 100%. So they're trying to move it forward for February 24th, or I think it's February 2024. The ADUs is one, but we have to consider what other alternative housing innovations we can build. Not every homeowner, depending on their home profile, can build an ADU. But if they have a land and they have space there, they can build a tiny house. So that's something else that we need to get behind.
So explain the tiny house. Exactly what is it? Is it like a one-bedroom apartment? What is it when you say tiny house? Because I did hear you say 900 square feet.
Right. So the tiny house is essentially a small home. Let's think of it as like a studio. And if you want, depending on your layout, you could put a partition wall in that home to create privacy between the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, and the bathroom, right? So it's a small home. In this particular case, it's movable. So you could relocate as people relocate. Sometimes people relocate just for work alone, right? They come in during certain seasons, they work, they go out. So if you're able to build one of these homes, you can actually continue to travel without having to worry about the rents and down payments first and last month. Some of the information that I have, it says that the average size of a movable tiny home is 225 square feet.
Wow, that doesn't seem like
It's 8
a
times
lot of
smaller than an
space.
average home. And they currently account for about 0.36% of the total residential listings in the U.S. The average price is about $52,000. Homeowners who have tiny homes seem to have more savings. Those are some of the accounts there and notes. So yeah, so that Senator Jacob Oliveira, who is a lead sponsor for this bill, it's a movable tiny house bill for the state of Massachusetts. But I'm talking about movables, but I'm also talking about here in our backyards. If the amendment is already passed by Governor Baker and it's sitting there waiting to get updated in these building codes, which we build off of, which zoning reviews to provide permits, then we should utilize that. We should push that. So that's one thing that I want to do is I want to work with a client who has the land, who's interested to work on getting that amendment into action by helping them get a permit for a tiny house in their yard. Because I did look at it and they have the land and they could probably build 2.
You need to come check me out. Because I have a shed that I want to get rid of. So maybe I could just tear that shed down and build me a tiny house.
You probably could. And so this is the whole point, Miss Priscilla. Like we as in the community, we as in the homeowners have to start looking at how do we reinvest in our own community.
Right.
How do we help grow our wealth? And that's going to be, as you already know, putting pressure on our governance, on our municipalities, those officers that are in office for us, for the constituents. So I'm bringing this information because I want homeowners, residents to know, even residents, you don't have to be a homeowner. You need to just be someone who cares about this situation that we wanted to improve in our communities.
Exactly. That sounds exciting. And so you are actually conducting a workshop on this.
Yeah, so the workshop is on the additional dwelling units on Monday. At work too at 6.
Okay. Is there some kind of way? Do they have to register? Is there a website they can go?
Yes, it is. It's actually on Eventbrite.
Okay.
So if you went to Eventbrite and maybe you put in like ADU, homeowner workshop, additional dwelling unit homeowner workshop, it should pop up.
Okay.
And the registration is free. There's no charge. It's just bringing the information to the community. I spoke with the city of Boston and the housing department and shared what I'm doing. And I spoke to them about what I believe their pain point is. Like Michelle Wu, now our mayor, is saying, hey, we're going to put another $1 million into this program and we want to see 100 more in the queue, but they're not getting the information out.
Right.
They don't have, I guess, the capacity, or not having, I'll just say, they're not having the capacity to do that. So, but I mean, yeah, we're not going to go into that. Yeah. So I believe that this is one of the ways, right? I'm an activist. I grew up with an activist. My family are activists. So I'm at the tables of activists, and I was told. And when I complained about things to my late Uncle Mel, and he would always say, well, what are you going to do about it? And I'd be like, come on, like, like then you want to walk away. So that sticks in my head. Like, what are you going to do about it? Because you see it's a problem, it's bothering you. And so one thing that I'm working on right now is I am working on how do we make this additional dwelling unit affordable? Because during the homeowner workshops that I hosted at my unit before the tenant moved in, a lot of the feedback was like, yeah, if I get the loan, there's another $25,000 to $30,000 that I'll need to have to build this unit. And not everyone has that in their savings or wants to take it out by leveraging equity. So I was thinking, as a contractor, I am guilty of having thrown materials that are just buildable materials. It's just excess, and I didn't have anywhere for it. I put
didn't
them
have
in
no
the dumpster.
Storage. Yeah.
Right. So I started thinking about how do we create a model that is affordable. So one thing I'm working on right now is leveraging my networks with contractors. I'm a board member of the Massachusetts Minority Contractor Association, and there are several general contractors in this board that, like me, have projects all throughout Boston and Massachusetts, and I'm sure have excess materials. And so I want to find a way that we, who care, reinvest in our communities. And if we can help offset this cost, with the diversion of these materials from the landfill and back into the community for equity, specifically for this ADU program, then it's possible that we can get that knocked down by 10%. Or 10,000, I'll say, right? And then there's another component that I'm interested in doing, which is the collaboration of working with our CTEs, our career technical education institutes, like our Youth Build Boston's, our vocational schools, to subsidize some of the labor. And at the same time, reinvest in our students, have them in the community working on projects. And I know a general contractor who's doing that now. So I believe that we as a community have the capacity to empower ourselves to utilize this program and enhance this program, right, through a collaborative and strategic effort.
That sounds great. I'm just like excited because this is something new. This is something different that we haven't heard, and so I am thankful and grateful to you for doing this and for coming on our show and telling our community about this, because there's a scripture in the Bible that says my people perish for lack of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason it seems like we can't get the information that we need. So it's through people like you, people like me, who are in these places, who sit at these tables, who are able to bring our community up to date. So and we need this radio station. Is very important because you get an opportunity to tell your story. It's not a 2-minute soundbite, I mean, you're able to explain clearly what is going on and how we as homeowners can change things to make it better for not only us but for our community.
Yes.
And so I applaud you, because I've seen you. I've been knowing you for a little while, and I've seen you out there, and I want to formally thank you for supporting me when I was running for office, and helping me. It was wonderful. I said, yeah, she did this for me, she did that. So anytime I can be of any service to help, because I'm about our people.
I do know that, and it was an honor to help you. I was really inspired by all the work you've done, not just the running, because that's when I got a chance to know you and find out about the work you've been doing in Boston for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. It's our trailblazers that we have to, follow in their paths and help to be even more resilient, right? So that at some point, someone else will be taking the show over.
Exactly.
But continuing the legacy of informing the people.
That's right. That's what I'm trying to do, pass the torch, but I want to make sure I pass it to the right person and pass it, so that we can continue to grow, and that I, will continue to be a part of our community, because I love Boston. I'm trying to move back to Roxbury. Don't ask me why, but I am. But yeah, it sounds very interesting, and I hope that people who are out there listening will go online. Give them your website.
Okay.
Oh, you said go on Eventbrite, right?
Yeah, but on my website too.
Okay.
The website is simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's my last name, so it's www.bossman.construction. So Bossman Construction.
That was a good.
BOSSMAN.
That's a good last name, Boss Man, woman.
Yeah. That's been a tough last name in the field. A bunch of white guys having a hard time calling me Boss Man because they couldn't call me Mignona. So, and it wasn't gonna be Amy. That's for sure. So I had a good time with that.
Yeah.
I think
tell me a little bit, because you are a black woman in a probably mostly all white union. And how did that feel? Because I know a lot of women get discouraged from going into construction because of the way they are treated. And so tell me, how did you overcome that?
I think the Creator set me up to be able to overcome that. I don't think I did anything special, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that the Creator put it in me when I was designed to be this way, to be able to endure things and have the tenacity to. I got my feelings hurt enough times, I got upset, I got my layoffs and was pissed off, like, why the heck am I being laid off when I'm doing all this great work, and I've had all those feelings, but I was just like, but you know what it was? I know what it was. It was because when I was 13, I asked Allah, like, Allah, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so please bless me to do this in service to you. So because I already had that conversation as a younger, I already knew this was my trajectory. So there was no doors that were going to close for me, or no type of rude or ignorance that was going to
stop you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I think that's
yeah.
really what it was. I already knew
Mm-hmm.
what I came to do. But I will say to the women, I will say it's gotten better. I mean, I go on companies and say, what women do they have as superintendents? What women do they have in leadership and construction, and not just in marketing and development, like how the companies emerged. I will say, but at the same time, let's keep it real. It's a man's world. There's a song about that.
Yep,
right?
it's a man's world.
So,
but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl.
That's true. But it being a male's world and a male-dominant industry, that means that your voice is not always heard. Even black men in the industry, I've seen it, with their great ideas, because it's a white man's world, right, or white man's industry. And so because of that perpetuation of like the institutional racism that is there, the structural racism that's in our workforces, in our schools, it's hard to escape it. And even for those who are propagating it, it's probably hard for them to escape it, right? Because it's embedded in their behavior and in our culture. And so as a woman, it is tough. I've had a lot of sexual harassment from black men and white men. Not any women, thank God. And that's tough, because you think about the positioning structure. I'm an apprentice. I just got on the job. I'm trying to, learn my craft, make my money, be a part of the team. And then you realize, like, no, you're about to be ostracized because, you have integrity. And so one thing I told myself was, when I started working on the Big Dig, I was like, I'm in Yona. There's going to be some drama here.
Yes.
What is your boundary? And at what point, will you say unacceptable, not having it? So I had to talk to myself to remind myself of my own integrity and what we're not going to participate in because of who we're not. And so that allowed me, sticking with that was my motto. So no matter where I wasn't participating in backbiting. I wasn't participating in all the sexual conversations of, like, they're so nosy, like, oh, you're married, you got kids, like, what the hell? What do you want, the social security number? It turns into a big gossip pool. So I wanted to make sure I stayed out of that. I wanted to make sure that I didn't participate in ways that were perceived as disrespectful or inviting, you know what I mean? But it's hard sometimes when you are the only woman on the job and everyone has a conversation about your lifestyle and you don't even know until they ask questions. A lot of times women have a hard time with retention. Women get accepted into the unions. I'm in the Carpenters Union still. I'm participating on some of those meetings, our interview meetings. Women get accepted into our union, but it's the union not being able to support our needs. The union not being able to create a culture of respect for everyone.
I know one of the problems that women have is daycare for women to have children. It's always been an issue because you have to be on your job at like 6 and 7 a.m. in the morning. So that means you got to get your child to the daycare by 5 sometimes, But I know that Liz Skidmore did do some work around that, I believe. And so now there are some daycare places that are open at an earlier time. And so I know that has been a barrier because especially if you're a single mom, you want to make sure your child is going to be safe while you're at work, So tell us, do you know a little bit about that?
I spoke to Keisha. She's a carpenter and then she was a student. I think she's a business agent. I spoke to Keisha and she was telling me years ago that was an idea that she had, which is like, hey, I see there's a need for daycare, and she was working on creating that. So I'm sure that her and Liz got together to make that happen. I can say my mom used to joke and say, you got man hours, because even me, I am leaving the house at like 5 something, calling my son, hey, did you get up? Did you get your lunch? You got to get out there. But remember, in the wintertime, it's dark. So he's sitting at the bus stop in the dark.
Yes.
And so there was a time when my mom was like, you just need to let him live at his dad's, because we were divorced. And that made the most sense, but I was like, that was my frustration. There's a frustration of you not being able to be there for your children in the morning to see them off, to lotion their face, give them a hug or kiss because you're running out.
You gotta be,
job, you know?
yeah.
And so, and then there's no work-life balance, right? I think they're starting that now, but reality, you're running a job site, or you're responsible to work with your partner and show up with your tool belt to build a plethora of walls and or ceilings, and you need work-life balance today because so people are going to look at women. In general, I heard in the workforce that we get underpaid because they see us as, they're going to end up getting pregnant. They're going to go take care of their moms. Like, the woman is going to be the one to leave the workforce, not the man. So I think that's one of the challenges for mothers. Definitely daycare, definitely support for the children in the mornings when they're trying to head out.
Yeah,
or
and even
if they're sick.
And even if this, like, if they have to come home from school, you know, because they're not feeling well or whatever,
Correct.
you know, I say that I believe that everybody should have someone that they can call and say, can you go to the school and check on, you know, my baby, something's going on, can you, because we need that village.
Yeah.
You know, because I know sometimes you see young kids standing by the bus stop by themselves,
Right.
you know, and you're fearful of them, you know. I know I used to say there should be like mothers, like if there's 4 or 5 mothers that, you know, congregate at a particular stop, y'all get together and, you know, work together, and like one day I'll take the children, I'll make sure the bus is there, the next day somebody else. You only need 5 people to do it,
Right.
you know, and these are the things that we need to learn and work together around with our community, you know, because we have to do, just like when COVID hit, we had to literally create a coalition so that we could get testing, so that we could get the vaccine, so we could get doctors and research people that look like us, you know. And so we always have to fight for ourselves. We're resilient. My motto is, we are the people, we have the power, but we just have to have the right people in the room with us so that we can make changes in our community, because we do the work.
Right.
You know, you can't say we don't do no work. And so yeah.
I like bringing the village concept back because when I look at our history as African American freedmen, like we literally, we did it. We had schools, we had banks, we had communities,
We
we
had
did
everything
homesteads.
we needed.
So that means we
Yeah.
of course we came together. And I look at our new culture and I say, wow, we're like missing a lot. This is not how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you, I would see these little children
Mm-hmm.
when I'm driving, and I'd be like, where's this coat? And so I have 3 sons, so I was like, you know what, I'm getting those boys coats so the boys grow up, you know. So I'm like, from now on, I'm putting a coat in my trunk or a hat or some gloves or something, so these little children, whether they chose to wear their coats or not, because sometimes we'd be doing that trying to be cute and we don't have our coats on.
Right.
But I'm like, but you know what, as a person who cares, my mom used to just, I grew up seeing my mom slowing down. Hold your brother's hand. Get out. Where's your mother? Like, because she cared. She was concerned. Her mom did that. So we have to, even in a small way, have to continue our own traditions and practices of showing care. So even if you can get a coat or a hat and you know that your son or daughter, they've grown out of it, you haven't had time to take it to the Goodwill, throw it in your trunk. Throw it in your passenger seat. So when you are going by, and this is another thing. So I'm going off on a quick tangent, but this is my frustration when we talk about disinvestment in our communities. Now, I've been living in Mattapan for 25 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The number 30 bus is the slowest bus ever on Cummins Highway.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't have for the last 25 years, we do not have any sheltered bus stops. We don't have any benches, and I see children, I see elders standing all day long in the heat, in the winter, in the rain, sleet, snow, or trying to find shelter under an apartment building awning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I wake up and I see bike lanes. And I see the pegs going down Cummins Highway. You cut out a lane, so we have money for who?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a problem.
And that is true. I tell you, you hit the nail on the hammer here. That is so true, because almost every other day you got tons of those things torn up, right? Just knocked down, and then you go back the next day and they up again. What is that? What is that? That doesn't make. Who's putting them up? And why you keep knocking them down? They keep is. I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand that.
Well, I understand it as a student of urban planning.
Okay, thank you.
As a student of urban planning, I took a course just this semester early on because I was like, transportation, heck yeah, who the heck is messing up transportation? Let me take this course to find out. The urban transportation I learned is all about economics. It's about, hey, this community's developing. We're going to start building business structures. Our businesses are going to come here. I heard Starbucks is over in Hyde Park setting up shop. So now, in order to get workers, in order to get the participants that they want to the consumers, they're creating paths of transportation, whether it's a bus or a purple line or these bike lanes, because they're also forecasting and projecting the population that will be in this community. And so that's what we see happening. Always it starts there, because I live next to Almont Park. Why in the summertime Almont Park doesn't have lights on for the children to continue to play basketball or for parents to continue to walk the track in the summertime when we have a longer day? But I go down to Neponset or I go up to West Roxbury and it's bright as day and no one's out there. Right? So our money in the city of Boston, if we wanted to look at, if they would ever give us the records, how much of that money, what percent is spent in Mattapan? I go down to Tremont Street or down to Boylston. I mean, those guys would be out cleaning at like 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning. But in Mattapan Square, where's our street cleaners?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people frequenting that square.
That's why we need to know about that budget. That's why we need to know about that budget.
Definitely need to know about the budget, but we see the budget in our communities when we walk up the door. And so that's what I mean about when I was younger, seeing the disinvestment, seeing my community look like our sidewalks are gray and dirty. I see apartment buildings with dumpsters with trash, no dumpster cover. So how does that help your mental wealth? How you feel about your community and your self-esteem when this is the look of your community? And so you feel undervalued because you go somewhere else and you see the value. And then as you live there, you see gradually, value's coming in, but it's not coming in for you. Right. So now the BPDA Boston has this plan for the Blue Hole Ave corridor where they want to take the buses, put them in the middle of the street, right? It's just ludicrous because, again, this is not meeting our needs. This is not coming from our voice. If they've heard my voice over and over, I'm saying, where the heck are the bus stops for the elders? Our community is predominantly Haitian.
Mattapan.
Yes. And there's a lot of families, and there are elders, and there's children, there's pregnant moms, and there's nowhere to sit down for a bus. And we have the money, we have the funds, we can't get some kind of solar light that's inside of our bus stops with the shelters and some heat going on in there for the winter. This is New England. Nothing. For 25 years. Livermore Street, case in point, Livermore Street. Every city councilor knows that Livermore Street is the dumping ground for anyone that wants to throw trash over there. Cars parked, people doing mechanic work over there. You call the constituents, not the city councilors, they'll tell you it's a private road. Dave Cullinay, I met him at a meeting at Mattahunt. We had to close down Mattahunt because it was underperforming. He tells me, when I say, can you do something about Livermore Street? Children are walking in the middle of the street because of the debris and the trash, and they're going to school, and this is what they see. Oh, it's a private way. Then I said, well, who put these big boulders here? And he gladly and proudly said, we put the boulders here to stop the dump. Who's living in an RV trailer parked there. There's a sign that says no dumping. You call the police. Hey, it says no dumping. What are you going to do? You know what time they're dumping? Do you know who's coming by? Is this my job? They have cameras on our young men in neighborhoods. Can you take them cameras off our young men and come put them over here on Livermore Street? So
to see who's dumping?
This is the problem.
Yeah,
where you get slapped in the face, where you don't see money, the resources that help your needs in your community and economic justice, but you see it when the bike lanes come in and ain't nobody even in the street riding a bike. Right.
I believe we have a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Sister Priscilla. How you doing?
I'm good, Sister Grace. How you doing?
Oh, good.
You have a question for my guest?
I do.
Hello?
I had a comment about the ADU program. And the
Grace? Grace?
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm calling to get just a comment on the ADU program, and to get more information about the meeting that your guest is having.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems with the ADU program is that you have, one of the big hurdles is that you have to get architect plans drawn. And those, architectural plans cost money. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is correct. In order to get a permit to renovate and change the use of your home occupancy, we definitely need a set of plans. And so that's, when we talked about construction management services, so that's some of the services that I provide, where I have an architect and we do plans. So we make sure that whatever the vision is, that's what we create. Give some ideas on how we can reconfigure things. And so it would be it's all part of the process. So like, say for instance, you qualify for the $50,000, you would have to have, in order to qualify or in order to even complete the loan, you would actually have to have a permit. And in order to get a permit, you would have to have a set of plans that were reviewed at ISD and stamped. Mm-hmm. And then you would take that permit and say, hey, Boston Home Center, I've got my permit, I can build this, now I'm going to apply for the loan. So yes, there is an initial process where there would be upfront costs for the architectural drawings.
So Grace,
Yeah.
is that one of the problems you said you have with it? So
Yes, the ADU team, well, one, you can, do your basement as an ADU or an addition. You could turn a garage into an ADU. But there is a lot of there's a lot of contractors who are now, doing ADUs with, building them, whatever. But, they are charging a lot of money. So she was talking about the small homes. So there's, they're coming and they're not. I don't know what's the square footage of a tiny home, but theirs is like 300, 400 square feet. So there's all different kind of things out here, but the hurdle, for our community is those plans. If you're building an ADU, you have to have the plans, and then you have to go through zoning. So the ADU people said that they're working to make that process streamlined. Going where you don't have to go through the permitting, zoning. Don't have to go through zoning if you're building an unattached structure. But the biggest hurdle is the architectural drawings that you have to have.
So let me ask a question. Isn't there an architectural school in Boston? Have you thought maybe we could use some students that might be in their last year?
If you use
well, you can. So yeah. I mean, so she's talking about looking at this program and streamlining it, and so that can be included in getting architectural, because that's the big hurdle, the architecture, and then you have people out here who are contractors who are doing ADUs. Okay, the grant is $50,000, but they want to charge you $80,000.
Well, that's about right. So the grant is $50,000 because it only helps towards the project. But I did some work on the budgeting for like a 1-bedroom in a basement apartment, and it will range between $70,000 to like $85,000, depending on the equipment, depending on your existing conditions. Some, like my basement was kind of finished already. I didn't have to build too many walls at all, but I did have to excavate and cut a door into my foundation for a second form of egress. So there's that. I have a client who has 2 forms of egress and great windows, so there's no excavation. So it really depends on the existing conditions of your basement in terms of how good you are with your previous layout. With the
Well-
ADU, there's a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing component because now you have to create utility services for this unit. And those costs are always double digits for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Well, because I'm in the child care world.
Yes.
We have lots of experience of family child care, people who are licensed to do child care out of homes. Over the years, been converting their basement into child care spaces. So there are contractors that will do a basement for like $40,000 to $50,000. You can find contractors that will do that. So there's contractors out there who are doing basements.
Right.
But still with the ADU, you have to have because it's in your if you hire a contractor to do your basement, you don't have to have design if you do that on your own because it's attached.
It depends on what level of work. If you're doing anything structural, you will have to have a design. If you're just doing some renovations, you still got to pull a permit. And then in terms of using students have to be licensed.
You have to pull permits, but you not necessarily have to have design. But for this program, you have to have the architectural design.
Yes, because you're creating an entirely separate unit.
Yeah, so so that's the cost right there that the grant doesn't cover. So, like you said, Priscilla, look for ways to get that cost reduced.
Yes.